Sometimes life feels like it's moving faster than your soul can keep up with. One choice, one moment of pressure, and suddenly you wonder if you've traded something priceless for something that barely lasted an afternoon. We've all felt the weight of a decision that came too quickly when hunger or exhaustion clouded what truly mattered. Those moments don't define us, but they do reveal us. And that's where the story of Esau quietly meets us, not with thunder, but with a mirror. Esau was the firstborn of Isaac and Rebekah, a rugged hunter whose strength filled the camp with confidence. His brother Jacob, calmer and quieter, stayed among the tents, learning to navigate life with strategy rather than speed. From the beginning, the tension between them simmered, not because one was good and the other evil, but because destiny rested on their shoulders before they even understood its weight. The birthright and inheritance of blessing, leadership, and covenant promise was Esau's by birth, yet the story reveals how quickly something sacred can be treated as common when the soul grows weary. One day, returning from the field drained and starving, Esau walked into camp and smelled Jacob's stew. Hunger roared louder than wisdom, and in a moment of desperation he offered what was eternal for what was immediate. Jacob asked for his birthright in exchange for the meal, and Esau agreed, tossing aside a legacy meant to shape nations for a bowl that filled him only for a moment. Later, when the blessing was given to Jacob through deception, Esau's grief pierced the air. The reality settled on him. He had surrendered a treasure long before his brother tricked him. The loss wasn't sudden, it was sealed in a single careless choice. Esau's story reminds us that the most dangerous temptations aren't always dramatic. They're often ordinary. Fatigue, frustration, unmet needs, these can cloud judgment and make a temporary relief look like a worthy exchange. In our own lives, the bowl of stew might be comfort over calling, convenience over conviction, or shortcuts that sacrifice what God intended for us to carry with honor. Esau teaches that the enemy doesn't have to steal what we willingly undervalue. Another lesson rises from Esau's heartbreak. Regret hits hardest when we realize we weren't tricked into losing our destiny, we abandoned it piece by piece. But even in the ache of what was lost, God's presence doesn't vanish. Esau still received a blessing, still became a nation, still lived under the watchful eyes of the God who had shaped his story from the womb. His path was different, but it was not forsaken, reminding us that failure doesn't erase God's ability to work in the aftermath. And perhaps the most beautiful part of Esau's journey appears years later when he meets Jacob again. Instead of vengeance, Esau runs toward his brother with open arms, weeping as they embrace. This glimpse of reconciliation shows that bitterness never brings healing, but forgiveness turns broken history into redeemed testimony. When we allow the presence of the Holy Spirit to soften what we hardened in anger, God writes endings we never expected, endings marked by grace instead of wounds. So when we look back at Esau's life, we see more than a man who surrendered a birthright. We see a man who teaches us the value of spiritual hunger, the danger of impulsive sacrifice, and the restoration that comes when God's presence breathes on old wounds. His story encourages us to pause before trading eternal things for temporary ease, and to trust that even when we misstep, God can still lead us forward with mercy. In the end, Esau's journey stands as a reminder. The choices we make shape our future, but the God who guides us can redeem every chapter we surrender to Him.